Ohai. Irkutsk, the city in Russia, the administrative center of the Irkutsk region, which does not enter and forms the certain municipal unit Irkutsk with the status of the city district as the settlement in its structure. The sixth largest city of Siberia with population 617,315 persons. For 2021. It is located in eastern Siberia, on riverbanks Angara. When falling the river into it, Irkut in 66 came from Baikal. Climate sharply continental, Devon-Kopina, with considerable temperature differences. Because of proximity to seismically active Baikal Rift, weak earthquakes are regular. Large scientific education center in which over 100,000 students study. Among industries, aircraft industry, hydropower and production of food. The transport hub on the Trans-Siberian Railway line and federal highways Baikal and Siberia. The ancient Siberian city is founded as a jail in 1661. Strongly suffered at the fire of 1716. The following major fire of 1879 caused so strong destructions that complete recovery of the city required more than 10 years. It is carried to the historical settlements of Russia. The historic center of the city is entered in the preliminary UNESCO World Cultural Heritage List. Before the October Revolution of 1917 was generally merchant city, long time prospering on the Russian-Chinese trade, and later and on the Siberian gold mining. Was also the place of political exile. Since 1803 was the Center Siberian, from 1822 to 1884 the East Siberian Governorate General. The decree of the President of the Russian Federation of July 2, 2020 to the city gave the rank City of Labor Valor. The name of the city happens from the river Irkut, near which in 1661 there was the Irkutsk jail. Initially the jail was called Yandashsky by name the Tuva leader Yandash Dorogi. But this name was not fixed. On the drawing of the cartographer S.U. Ramazov created in 1701 it is designated as Irkutskaya Hale. Patronym of the river Irkut has multiple valued interpretation and contacts the Mongol Buryat words in force, energy to turn, spin, turn value. According to the most plausible version, the name of the river is formed from an ethnonym to Irku in options Irkut, Irjit. Irkut is widespread among Tuvinians and other people. In Mongolian the river and the city are called Irk, in Buryat, respectively Irkmren and Irke Jota, where Jota, city. Old writing of the name of the city, Irkutsk. Before revolution the city was called East Paris, the Siberian street. Petersburg, the Siberian Athens. In 1931, on the occasion of a visit of the People's Commissar of Defense K.E. Voroshilov, Irkutsk was going to be renamed into Voroshilovsk. The coat of arms of Irkutsk, approved in 1997, represents a silver heraldic board on which the black Baber, with dark red eyes keeping in a mouth of a dark red sable, is represented. Originally on seals of the Irkutsk jail the single-headed eagle who in 1689 removed to a seal of Nerchinsk was represented. His seal with the image of the Baber keeping in a mouth of a sable was used by the Irkut jail since 1635, and in later time in a seal of the Lensk customs. His symbolics was reproduced in the coat of arms and a seal of Irkutsk, approved as it is considered to be, on February 18, 1690. According to the historian A. Dulov, this date is improbable. If the seal could also appear at the end of the 17th century, then the coat of arms arose not earlier than the 1760th years at organization of the Irkutsk province. A municipal coat of arms with the following description. In the silver field of a board the running Babur, and in a company added a sable. This coat of arms old. It was approved as Catherine II in 1790. Then the Babur appeared on the coats of arms of Irkutsk, Zashiversk and other cities submitting to Irkutsk. The word Babur, Russian since the 17th century, called the tiger, earlier unknown to them, living in Baikal region and subsequently exterminated. Babur, a big, strong and fierce animal, who is referred to a genus of tigers. From the Chinese ownerships the border is run across sometimes by Babs to the Irkutsk province. The Irkutsk Contemporary in 1817 noted, after heraldic reform of B. Fioni in 1878 Irkutsk received the provincial coat of arms, which was strongly differing from former. Then by mistake of capital officials the little known word a Babur turned into more familiar, a beaver, and on the coat of arms the fantastic animal of black coloring with a cat's muzzle, a scaly tail and webby paws appeared. In days of the Soviet power for the first time remembered the coats of arms of the cities in the 1950th years. The Irkutsk Babur began to be reproduced on cards and in literature. In 1996 as the coat of arms of Irkutsk, the coat of arms of pre-revolutionary option of 1878 with minor changes was approved. The flag of Irkutsk was founded on October 31, 1996. It represents a rectangular white panel with reproduction of composition of the city coat of arms, a Babur on the green earth with a sable and teeth. Complemented in the lower part with the horizontal blue strip which is coming to the end with a slope. The anthem of Irkutsk as an official symbol is de jure provided by the charter of the city since 2009, competition on creation of music and the text of the anthem. However, any of the offered options was announced subsequently, it was not accepted. According to the charter of the city of Irkutsk accepted by a thought of Irkutsk on May 20, 2004, treat local government authorities. The mayor, administration, city council and control audit chamber. The city management official, the mayor. It's the city administration. It is elected city council from the structure for a period of 5 years by an open voting, the majority in 2/3 of voices of the determined number of deputies of city council. Powers of the deputy of city council elected the mayor stop. From March 28, 2015 to March 17, 2020 years the mayor of Irkutsk was Dmitry Viktorovich Berdnikov, who became the deputy of the Duma of the city of Irkutsk on elections of 2014 through self-promotion. From 1991 to 1993 was the plant manager of Baikal Interplast. The mayor from March 14, 2010 to March 26, 2015 was Viktor Ivanovich Kondrashov. The entrepreneur and since 2008 the deputy of Legislative Assembly of the Irkutsk region elected according to the party list of the Irkutsk Regional Office Karov.
In March 2010 resigned deputy authority in connection with a victory on elections of the mayor of Irkutsk, where collected 64% of votes at a turnout of voters of 33.5%.
After the victory entered an United Russia party.
On elections to Legislative Assembly of 2018 became the deputy from the Kirov on single candidate district No.
5. In 1994-1997 the position of the mayor of Irkutsk was held by Boris Goverin. In 1997-2009 the mayor of Irkutsk was Vladimir Yakubovsky. Representative body, City Council, consists of 35 deputies elected on single candidate constituencies for a period of 5 years. Places in the thought of the 6th convocation chosen in 2014 were distributed as follows. 27 deputies from United Russia, 6 independent candidates, 1 deputy from the Kirov, 1 deputy from Civic Platform. On a by-election in the Duma of the city of Irkutsk on the 18th district. Instead of Irkutsk, which became the mayor of Dmitry Viktorovich Berdnikov, the deputy from Just Russia was elected. The chairman of the Duma of the city of Irkutsk of the 6th convocation since April 30, 2015 was Irina Vvolodovna Azova, who resigned in March 2018, and on March 29, 2018 to this position the ballot elected the deputy on constituency No. 28 Evgeny Yurevich Stekachev. At State Duma elections of 2011 in Irkutsk voted for United Russia of 25.6% of voters, for the Kirov -31%, at State Duma elections of 2016, for United Russia of 39.8% of voters, for the Kirov -24.05%. According to the Charter of the Irkutsk region, Irkutsk is the administrative center of the Irkutsk region. The Federal Arbitration Court of the East Siberian Arbitration District, the East Siberian Transport Prosecutor's Office, the East Siberian Departments of Investigative Committee and the Ministry of Internal Affairs on Transport are also deployed in Irkutsk. According to the law about the administrative territorial device of the Irkutsk region, the city is divided into the following administrative territorial educations -5 areas.
Kirovsky, Kuybushov, Lenin, Oktober, Sverdlovsk districts.
According to the Charter of the city, the municipal unit the city of Irkutsk is divided into 4 administrative districts which are not administrative territorial formations of area, and are created for managerial control by the respective territories and can include several districts of the city of Irkutsk. Districts of the city. The chairman of management committees appointed by the mayor direct districts which at the same time are deputy mayors.
A natural border between districts passes across the Angara rivers, Irkut and Ashakovk.
The border of Right Bank and Oktober districts passes mainly on streets. At different times the city absorbed the settlements of Varasovka, Batarinaya, Ermakovsky, Bokovo, Shelkino, Parfinovka, Iskra, Kirov, Melnikovo, Selivanix name, Cherymushki, Titovo, Kuzmik. Historical and the administrative business center is located in the Right Bank district. 117,230 people. Formed in 1996 at merge of the Kirov and Kuybushov districts. Other large planning zones: suburbs Znamensk. The old name of Merit. Working Radishchevo, the Meritovsky industrial hub. The October District. 147,784 people. The area of the modern housing estate. In the district, the airport and East Industrial Hub is located. The Sverdlovsk District. 205,775 people. Forms the planning zones Glaskovo and the campus in the north. Campus, residential district Seaside, Anniversary, Southern and settlements of power engineering specialists and hydroelectric power station in the south. Residential districts Mayday, University, Sinyushina Mountain, Melnikovsky Industrial Hub in the west. In the district, the Irkutsk Hydroelectric Power Station, the new and Irkutsk Combined Heat and Power Plant, the Irkutsk Passenger Station are located. The Lenin District. 152,773 people. Neo-Lenino, Shilkino is formed by areas Irkutskaya. In the district, Northern and Shilkinsky industrial hubs, aircraft factory and the railway station Irkutsk sorting are located. On April 30, 2015, deputies of the Duma of Irkutsk approved new structure of administration of Irkutsk, according to which the city is divided into only 3 city districts. Central. The including only Kurovsky district. Right Bank. Includes the Kubyshev and October districts. And Left Bank. Includes the Sverdlovsk and Lenin districts. History. In the territory of Irkutsk, parking of eras of the top Paleo, Mesolith, the Neolithic, the Eneolith, Bronze and Iron centuries are found. The 17th century.
The beginning conducts the city with the jail mortgaged by Yakov Pakabav's group on the instructions of the Yenisei Voivode 6 on July
16. 1661. A number of researchers refers emergence of Irkutsk to 1620, others consider that in the 1650th years on the island of Tyachem there were permanent winter quarters of Russians. The basis of the Irkutsk jail was preceded by an exit of Russians to Baikal in 1643. It was one of the numerous jails in eastern Siberia delivered for collecting of a yasuk. The Cossack foreman Vasily Estakov was appointed the first salesman of a new jail. By the end of the 1660th years of the structure of a jail decade, the defensive works were built anew. Around it a gay ditch, behind walls there was a posset. In 1672 the first wooden church, Spasskaya, is constructed. In 1682 the jail becomes the center of the Irkutsk voivodeship, uniting all jails of Baikal region. The monarchic yard becomes the residence of the voivode. In 1686 Irkutsk was given the status of the city. Nelvoznesensky the monastery. In 1689 Women's Znamensky monastery is mortgaged. After settlement of the Russian-Chinese relations, the Nerchinsk Agreement. 1689. Through Irkutsk trade caravans on the way to China stretched. From Siberia brought furs, from China through Selenga and Baikal, tea, sugar and fabrics. In 1692 in Amsterdam the book by N. Vincent, Northern and East Tartaria, in whom it is so described Irkutsk, was published.
The city Irkutsk, located approximately 8 miles from the coast of the Baikal Sea, is built several years ago.
It is supplied with strong wooden towers and has the big suburb. Earth is very fertile there, and many Muscovites lodged here. Very much this area is subject to many earthquakes.
In the city in strengthening, there is a house of the chief, also armory and a town hall.
The guard contains an fortress, but soldiers live beyond its limits. In a jail there is a settlement or the suburb. In 1696 in Irkutsk there was a revolt of the Transbaikal Sagittariuses. A so-called revolt of overseas Sagittariuses. Against the voivode Afanasy Savyalev, who incited against himself local population. At this time gained development of a smithy, workshops, Kazhev soap factories. By 1700 in Irkutsk lived about 1,000 people, including 409 Cossacks, 110 Posadsky people, 50 Slushly, 13 children seniorial, 2 noblemen and others. The 18th century. In 1701 the first stone building, a mandative log hut, appeared. In 1716 the fire considerably damaged careful constructions which were restored in a year. In 1701 the post message with Moscow, Yamsky Chase, with use of an underwater duty is organized. In 1719 Irkutsk becomes the center of the Irkutsk province as a part of the Siberian province. In 1722 the town hall in a year reorganized into magistrate is open. In 1725 Irkutsk is visited by participants of the Kamchatka expedition led by 5. Bearing. In the 1720th years at Voznesensky the monastery the Russian Mongolian school is formed. Use of an official stamp for applying to the passports issued to merchants from customs and from town halls begins. In 1730 the merchant Lanin opens the ironworks plant. In 1738 the post path on Okhotsk is open. In 1745 the first stone apartment house was built. In 1747 the Posadsky person Prokopyev opens the glass plant and weaving mill. In the 1750th years were founded School of Navigation. In the city the first Old Believers appeared. In 1757 the police are founded. In the 1750th years the Moscow highway came to Irkutsk. Cancellation of an imperial export monopoly of furs in 1762 opened Golden Age of the Irkutsk merchants. The largest merchant dynasties Sibiryakova, Besnina, Trapeznikova, Dudarovskaya, Soldatov grew rich on the Russian-Chinese trade, avaricious both reselling furs and interfering with access for non-resident merchants to local market. Participation in supply of provisions and metal for the state needs was other source of their enrichment. Merchants shared the money received from treasury with officials. Many merchant dynasties were natives from the Russian north. By the end of the 18th century the merchants began to play the leading role in civil life of Irkutsk, making opposition of public administration. Holding key positions in bodies of the city authorities, merchants got access to profitable IT contracts. Traditions of charity of merchants at the expense of which churches, shelters, hospitals, schools, theaters, libraries were under construction and contained got stronger. Surnames of the famous merchants began to call streets subsequently. Bezninsky, Leninsky, Medvenikovsky, Milnikovsky, Trapeznikovsky and others. In 1764 the Irkutsk province as a part of the Siberian kingdom is formed. In the 1770th years the city fair and bank office was officially open. In the 1780th years the public library, theological seminary, city school, and also printing house appeared. In 1783 the Irkutsk Namestnichestvo under control of the Governor-General is formed. 1. The city council is founded on January 12. 1787, the merchant of the Igil Dam.
Sibiryakov 3 times re-elected and awarded ranks eminent citizen for a contribution to development of the city is elected the mayor.
In 1775 the fire almost completely destroyed the downtown. In 1790 decayed walls of a jail were sorted. In 1791 in Irkutsk within 2 months there was the first political exile to these places, a Radishev condemned for the publication, Travel from Street Petersburg to Moscow. By the end of the 18th century, before patriarchal Irkutsk began to purchase the image of the European city where culture developed, there were modern clothes, most of men was already shortly cut and shaved a beard. In 1799 with the assistance of the Irkutsk merchant Mr. Selahov the Russian-American company is created. From the middle of the 18th century the city began to play a role of the main base of the Pacific crafts. Here one of rack offices, the American barracks, the forge, smolokhareny, furriers and spinning plants belonging to it was placed. In Irkutsk commercial transactions and supplying transactions were made, the teams of industrialists and seamen were made, many of which were inhabitants of Irkutsk. Residents owned up to 9% of stocks of the company. Verses by Derzavin are given in a sepulchral monument of G. 1. Shelahav. Do not forget, the descendant of Ros, your ancestor, and in the east is Lab. The 19th century. In 1801 the Krugomorsky path in Transbaikalia laid with the assistance of exiled is open. In the city the hard labor was applied in the craft house and at cloth factory. In 1807 on private means the first hospital was open. In 1812 from Irkutsk 566 recruits were sent for war with Napoleon. In 1813 from the Moscow path a triumphal arch is delivered. In 1816 the Irkutsk Cossack army is formed. Being far from the capital, the local administration had almost absolute power. Instructions from above permitted them to lat. Only Vismater as he is Nisan as God will talk some sense. In 1717 and 1736 the Irkutsk voivode 50. Rakitin and the vice-governor A. Zholobov were executed for abuses on places in street.
Petersburg Governor-Generals 1.
Jacobi, B.
Latsano and 1.
Selefontov were at different times dismissed. The vice-governor A. Pleshchev was greedy for gifts, the governor F. Nemtsov caused a stir in unreasonable bribery. The governor N. Treskin became famous for establishing order and purity on city streets, punishment over merchant opposition and expulsion of mean members of society. For its management blossoming of corruption had.
In 1819 the Governor-General Pestel was released from a position. The Russian reformer Mikhail Speransky, to whom it was entrusted, is appointed to its place. It is necessary to give room to legal judgment, and to create, on the place, the most useful device of this remotage.
For 2 years of stay of Speransky in Irkutsk the civil governor Treskin was prosecuted. About 700 officials involved in lawlessness are identified. The townscape is solid because he well trades. And at all not because represents the center. Managerial control of Eastern Siberia. Irkutsk, the city national, radical Siberian ancient. Where social activists prevail over the soldier estate. Pre-revolutionary edition. In 1822 the East Siberian Governorate General with the center in Irkutsk was formed. In 1826 in the city there arrived the first exiled Decembrists. After penal servitude departure to S. Trubetskoy in S. Volkonsky permitted to lodge in Irkutsk. According to the draft constitution of N.M. Moravia, Irkutsk had to become the capital of the Lensk power as a part of the Russian Federation. In 1836 the first private bank is open. In 1839 the first public library is open. In the 1840th years Irkutsk turns into the capital of the Lensk gold, the place of concentration of the capitals of gold industry entrepreneurs. These years in the city there arrived the first steamship, the institution for young ladies and theatre were open. From 1848 to 1861 the Count N.N. Moravia was the Governor-General. It not only annexed primary to Russia, but also made for strengthening of positions of the imperial power in all region much. From opening of the message along Amur in 1854 on the way from St. Petersburg to the Pacific Ocean the old Yakut path begins to fall into decay. In Irkutsk there arrive exiled Poles. The population of the city makes 28,000 people, exiled there were 3768 people. In 1864 the cable line to St. Petersburg is brought.
In 1866 in Irkutsk there passed the trial of 683 Poles who excited a rebellion on Baikal.
On June 22 and 24. On July 1879 in the city the fire which almost destroyed the historic center blazed. This event divided the history of the city into Dopozarny and post-fire Irkutsk. 11 people died from the fire, thousands of people were homeless.
Among other things the museum and about 10,000 books of library of the Geographical Society and also provincial archive burned down.
The traveler J. Cannon noted that the city of the 1880th years lost much and became less interesting than before the fire.
Restoration of the city from the ashes coincided with blossoming of the Lensk gold mining in 1870, the 1880th years.
The Great Fire in Irkutsk of 1879.
At the end of the 1880th years gold mining declined, fading of the Kyoto trade began.
In 1890 in the city A. Chekhov, who called Irkutsk the intelligent city, stopped. In June 1890 the city was visited by the Tsarevich Nikolai. In 1897 the first film session took place. In 1899 on streets there were omnibuses in which fare was established by a thought. The railroad, according to the original project, had to pass on shorter way to the north from Lake Baikal, away from Irkutsk. However, the city was passed by the fate of Tomsk, and in 1898 in Irkutsk solemnly there arrived the first train on the Trans-Siberian Railway. The railroad caused emergence in the city of new transport enterprises, recovered coal production and the forest industry, promoted inflow of the population. The 20th century. The beginning of the 20th century was marked by development of revolutionary movement. In April 1903 at the Irkutsk station, the strike of railroad workers, which ended with Massachusetts arrests, broke up. In October 1905 in the city there took place the general strike of workers and employees. On October 19 the Governor-General P. Kutuzov cabled the Tsar. Desperate situation. There are almost no troops. The revolt is complete, General. With introduction of martial law, open performances stopped.
In the summer of 1908, Social Democrats tried to break a ceremonial opening of a monument to Alexander III, having declared this day a black holiday of imperial officials.
In the years of World War I, over 10,000 inhabitants of Irkutsk were mobilized. Industrial enterprises of the pre-revolutionary city were small and had mainly handicraft character. Most of the population was engaged in trade, the service industry, truck farming and craft production. In March 1917 the Governor A. Eugen was discharged of a position, or arrested the Governor-General A. Hiltz in the highest ranks of police, the Governorate-General is abolished. All political prisoners are released from provincial prison. In December 1917 the White House within 9 days had heavy fighting between Red Guards and cadets, in whom over 300 people died, about 700 were wounded. Upon termination of fights the Soviet power was temporarily established. On the night of July 11, 1918 Red voluntarily left Irkutsk. In the afternoon parts of the Czechoslovak body and the Provisional Siberian government entered the city. The civil power temporarily passed to city council. In November 1919 the Russian government, which was placed in the building of Russian Asian Bank, moved to Irkutsk from Omsk. On November 12, 1919 at the Sisabursky meeting of Zemstvos and the cities in Irkutsk, the political center which organized at the end of 1919 anti-Kolchevsky revolt, was created. In the night of February 7, 1920 the Admiral A.5. Kolchak and the chairman of the Board of Ministers of the Russian government 5. N. Teplyov were shot extrajudicially, under the resolution of the Irkutsk Revolutionary Military Committee of Bolsheviks in pursuance of the direct order of Lenin Primus 1. On March 7, 1920 the Red Army entered the city, the Soviet power was restored. In 1926 the Irkutsk province was abolished. As a part of Siberia the Irkutsk district is formed. In 1922-1923 Irkutsk was the center of the Mongolo-Buryatsky Autonomous Region, since 1930 the center of East Siberia, since 1937 the Irkutsk region. In 1923 the first stadium on 2,000 places was constructed. In 1936 through Angara the first reinforced concrete Lenin Bridge is open. In 1920, the 1950th years on Angara operated Gidroport. For the 1930th years construction of aircraft factory, steel works of Kubyshev, Pressovokny, sewing and macaroni factories, soap factory and other enterprises was necessary. In days of the Great Patriotic War on the front about 20,000 inhabitants of Irkutsk, half of whom did not return, left. During war to Irkutsk, some enterprises of the western regions of the country which remained here after war were evacuated.
In the 1950th years, with an implementation of the resolution of Council of Ministers of the USSR of January 17, 1955, about set in People's Republic of China of workers for participation in communistic construction and labor training in the USSR, the Chinese workers worked at the enterprises and buildings of the city. The occupation layer of Irkutsk by the beginning of the 21st century increased by
1.5 meters. In 1958, the Irkutsk hydroelectric power station is put into operation. At this time the city remained generally wooden and one-story. In 1960, the 1970th year's large-scale housing and industrial construction was necessary.
In 1986, for big merits of workers of Irkutsk in revolutionary movement, their contribution to fight against fascist aggressors in days of the Great Patriotic War, the city is awarded awards of the October Revolution. Prior to the beginning of the 1990th years, Irkutsk remained one of the largest industrial centers of Rus first, with the high-tech mechanical engineering focused on the Allied market. The aircraft industry, instrument making, radio electronics developed.
And also production of the metallurgical and mountain equipment, automobile details and machines. Metalworking production was provided by the plants on repair of the rolling stock of the railroad, river crafts, planes. Production of construction materials, the furniture, printing, light and food industry were other large industries. Over 40,000 people were employed at 5 largest plants. In post-perestroika years, many enterprises of mechanical engineering and light industry could not fit into market conditions. The radian plants, machine tool constructing, drive shafts, the radio plant, Cherazvasoni and macaroni factories, house building plant, the plant of concrete goods and others stopped existence. The 21st century. Geographical location.
Irkutsk is located in eastern Siberia on banks of the river of Angara in close proximity to the reservoir formed by a dam of the Irkutsk hydroelectric power station up to 56 meters high.
The nearest large town, Ulanud, is at distance of 439 km. The next million-strong city, Krasnoyarsk, is removed on distance of 850 km. On a straight line. And 1060 km on highway. To Moscow the distance makes 5200 km. Irkutsk is an antipode of the Chilean Punta Arenas. Irkutsk from 3 parties is surrounded with the Irkutsk Municipal District, in the northwest borders on the Angarsk Municipal District. In vicinities meadows, the pine and birch forests, pine listvennikny, birch woods are located. The square of the city minus 27998 hectares. Urban development occupies 11950 hectares, the woods minus 6350 hectares, water spaces minus 2870 hectares, meadows and floodplains minus 4260 hectares. City relief crossed. Earth height above sea level is from 420 to 550 meters. The landscape of the city and its vicinities represents Skolmlyany erosive tenudatsionuyu, the plain created by the Jurassic and Quaternary deposits. Also treats a forest steppe zone of the Irkutsk and Cheremkovo plain at the northern foot of Sion Mountains. The main part of Irkutsk coasts on the high floodplain and terraces of Angara, Irkut, Ushakovky and other rivers. The outskirts are located on slopes. Under the influence of technogenic loadings, almost the number of suffosionocollapsible and erosive processes increased in all districts of the city.
To especially protected areas are carried the earth of federal importance of the Botanical Garden of the Irkutsk State University and also the earth of municipal value.
Irkutsk Grove, a forest park on Sinushinoye Grif, a forest zone of the resort Angara, a grove of the residential district New Melnikovo and arboretum of campus. There are over 40 parks and squares of 360 hectares. The area of flower beds is 9,000 m.
In total in Irkutsk and its vicinities 1105 plant species grow, 58 of which are included in the red list of area.
12 green massifs of the general space of
5,000 hectares is occupied by nearly 42% of the territory of the city, among them
the Plishkinsky Wood, the Kaisky Grove, the Botanical Garden, a grove, *, a grove on Sinushinoye Gor, the district of the resort Angara, New Melnikovo, the arboretum of the campus, areas anniversary, Yershov, stations Battery and Versovki. Among park zones: Park of the Commune of Paris, Thompson's Garden, Kaisky Grove, Kashtakovsky Grove, Squares Tikvin and Korova, Islands Horse and Youth. Hydrography: Angara divides the city into right bank and left bank parts. River length within the city is 29 km, width under the old Angarsk bridge in the downtown about 300 m, on the river is over 30 islands. Its left inflow, Irkut, is natural border of the Sverdlovsk and Lenin districts. Among the small rivers: Ushakovka, the fire chamber, Varasovka, inflows of Irkut, Kai and Olk. The dam of the Irkutsk hydroelectric power station closes the Irkutsk reservoir. Before construction of a dam, the area was constantly waterlogged by floods and floods. The lake was at the place of the square of Kirev in the 17th century. On Karl Marx Street the small river flew. Construction of a dam of hydroelectric power station led to the fact that water from a reservoir began to filter into a dam body around groundwater level, especially in a right bank part of the city rose.
In the residential district Solar, the field of mineral waters relating to the largest Angarolensky artesian basin on the planet lies.
In the territory of the resort Angara is got hydrocarbon sulfate chloride sodium water. Well-planned embankments extend along the right coast of Angara. The embankment of Boulevard Gagarin with concrete protections was created in the 1960th years. Nizhnaya embankment, reconstructed in 2011, consists of 2 tiers, has the shot fencings and parapets revetted with granite. 1 authorized beach works in the Gulf Yakobi at a dam of hydroelectric power station. 8 warm lakes of hydroelectric power station and the residential district Solar belong to popular places of spontaneous bathing the island. Inhabitants of Irkutsk go out of town on the Baikal beaches of Small Sea Strait. Earthquakes. Irkutsk is located on the edge of rather safe Siberian platform near seismically active tectonic fault, the Baikal Rift area, and carried to the region of possible earthquakes by intensity up to 8 points. Pitch's intensity of 9 points in Irkutsk are improbable as epicenters of the majority of destructive earthquakes are on removal from the city, in a hollow of Baikal and East Sion Mountains.
Under the city in the northwest direction there passes the Angarsk tectonic break, which is not a source of large earthquakes of the present. Tsunami near Irkutsk were not observed.
The dam of hydroelectric power station is capable to sustain an earthquake of 8 points. The human victims of earthquakes in Irkutsk are not known to history. Nevertheless, in the city there are regularly false rumors about the forthcoming earthquake. On average in Irkutsk, 304 earthquakes intensity up to 4 points annually are registered. Earthquakes intensity of 6 points on average occur once in 15 years.
In 1862 in the city Edmog pushes up the strongest of the known earthquakes on Baikal Tsaganski intensity in epicenter up to 10 points who entailed a wave of a tsunami 2 meters high felt.
Crosses fell from city churches, by itself bells ringed, on Angara ice burst. In the 20th century of concussion were fixed by intensity from 5 to 7 points in 1903, 1905, 1950, 1957, 1959, 1967, 1995 and 1999. The large earthquake intensity of 6 points occurred on August 27, 2008, and on September 22, 2020 approximately at 2:30 a.m. On September 21, 1830 Moscow time, there was an earthquake measuring 5.9 points. According to the Ministry of Emergency Situations of Russia of the region, an earthquake measuring 5.9, class 14.7, intensity 8.1, epicenter in the Sludyanka district of the Item Koltek, in Irkutsk and Sludyanka, 6 points. Irkutsk is in our zone at +5.
Shift of the applied time concerning Utes is +8:00. According to the applied time and geographical longitude, average solar midday in Irkutsk comes at 13:03.
Because of remoteness from the sea's climate of Irkutsk sharply continental with considerable daily allowance and annual fluctuations of air temperatures, the difference of summer and winter temperatures can exceed 70 C. The average annual solstice makes 318 days. Negative temperature is established at the end of October. On average about 23 numbers. And keeps prior to the beginning of April. On average to the 6th. The winter is severe, long, lasting more than 5 months. The end of October, the beginning of April. With receipt of the Siberian anticyclone, clear, frosty and windless weather is established. The coldest month in a year, January, average temperature is 17.8 C. The spring is dry and short. Snow descends at the beginning of April, above zero temperature is established by the beginning of May. Summer in the first half hot and dry, incessant rains fall on the second half. The warmest month, July, average temperature is 18.3 C. Whole warm and dry. Sharp daily temperature differences are characteristic. The city is located in the second zone of frost resistance. Merslotny processes are caused by frost penetration in soil which begins at the end of October, the beginning of November and continues until the end of March or the middle of April. Thawing of soil usually begins in the first half of April, and during an initial stage there is a thawing of a small layer in the afternoon and freezing at its night. On the most part of the territory, complete thawing takes place in June-July. Standard depth of frost penetration in soil is 3.5 meters.
During the winter period, the effect of the island of heat, wind because of heated buildings, average daily air temperature in the center of Irkutsk is 1-2 C higher than beyond its limits is most noticeable.
The vegetative period on average lasts 148 days in a year. The Bezmorozny period -95 days. Average daily air temperature above 0 C keeps within 200 days. 78% of all rainfall, on cold -22% fall on the warm period of year. May-September. Average annual speed of wind -2.1 m/s. The greatest number of windy days is the share of spring and fall. The average annual humidity of air moderated -72%.
An absolute maximum of annual rainfall. The absolute minimum in 1884 at the level of 209 was recorded in 1938 at the level of 797.
The non-freezing ice hole of Angara, below a Bife hydroelectric power station, causes regular fogs during the autumn and winter period, increase in humidity of air in a coastal zone and, as a result, hoarfrost on trees. Influence of the top Bife, a reservoir has local character. The main pollutants of atmospheric air of Irkutsk are emissions of motor transport. 60% of emissions. And the power system sources which are not equipped with filters. 38% of emissions. About 2% of all emissions are the share of production enterprises. Average annual concentration of benzpyrene in 2010 exceeded admissible regulation by 10 times, nitrogen oxide by 1.1 times, suspended substances, twice, formaldehyde, by 6 times. For the period 2005-2009, growth of average annual concentration of suspended substances, benzpyrene, formaldehyde, copper dioxide and nitrogen oxide was observed. A part of the center and the residential districts New Lenino and Irkutsk belong to the most polluted territories.
To the least polluted and silent residential districts Yurchov and Iridescent, and also coast of Angara from the island youth to a dam of hydroelectric power station and a site at the campus.
The wood near the resort Angara. Emissions of pollutants in the atmosphere from stationary and mobile sources in 2011 made 143,000 tons.
On emissions in the atmosphere of pollutants from stationary sources in 2010, Irkutsk took the 15th place among the cities of Russia with the most adverse ecological situation.
In 2010 there were 196 enterprises releasing into the atmosphere of 69 pollutants. 94% of all emissions of stationary sources are the share of burning products. Coal and black oil pitches, benzpyrene, carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, sulfurous anhydride.
The greatest contribution to air pollution from stationary sources is made by the enterprises of power system -69%.
Treat the main stationary sources of air pollution. The new and Irkutsk combined heat and power plant. 40,000 tons of emissions a year. Bakel and Ergo. 6,000 tons. And the Irkutsk aircraft factory. 5,000 tons.
On the amount of emissions in the atmosphere from stationary sources to Irkutsk, 10% of all emissions of area are the share.
For comparison, of Angast -33%, Bratsk -21%. The main dumpings of sewage into Angara, the Irkutsk aircraft factory, Bakel and Ergo, and a water utility of the city, to the river Make Circuit furniture factory.
The main source of negative impact on plants and soil cover is the increased level of pollution of atmospheric air, in particular dioxide of sulfur and aerosols of heavy metals.
High content in soils of the fluorine spread by aluminum plant in Shelikow is noted.
My results of inspection of soils of the city and its vicinities of 1997, soils of this area were referred to admissible category of pollution.
The electromagnetic background of the urban environment exceeds acceptable level in 40% of cases. In the territory of the city also several enterprises users of radionuclide substances are located. It is possible to carry drinking water into negative ecological factors Irkutsk, Shelikow.
Water comes to a water supply system of these cities and suburban settlements from the Yershov water intake in the Irkutsk reservoir, that is practically from the Lake Baikal.
Despite the purity, water is characterized by very low mineralization. On this indicator the Baikal water is close to distilled. The permanent use of this water in food leads to development in the person of such disease as osteoporosis. There are several projects of bringing the Irkutsk tap water to the indicators demanded by state standard specifications, but any of them is not realized due to the lack of financing yet. In the past there were also well-planned yards. To replace bosques and flower beds asphalt, the park cars and garages came.
The trouble not only ecological, but also social is available.
Now, 2011. About 4 square m of public green plantings. Official figure -6.
The share of one inhabitant of Irkutsk, by estimates of specialists of botanical garden yoke, or as town planning regulations and rules of the Russian Federation establish the standard not less than 16.5 square
m. And this indicator is developed for the European part of the country, in the conditions of severe climate of Siberia. Security with greens, is equal, by the way, as well as housing, should reach at least 20 squares. For January 1, 2021 on population the city was in the 23rd place from 1116 cities of the Russian Federation. 2021. At the 23rd place among the cities of Russia. The 22nd place on censuses of 1897, at the 2nd place among the cities of Siberia. Since the 1940th years Irkutsk, the second largest city of eastern Siberia. After Krasnoyarsk. Throughout the 20th century growth of the population was defined by natural increase and migration inflow. On the overestimated official data, by 1989 the population of Irkutsk made 626,000 people. Unmodified later given -576.9 thousand people. Since 1992 natural increase of the population was replaced by natural losses, and the population began to be reduced.
Since 1999 natural losses of the population increased, migration inflow was replaced by outflow, as a result the population was reduced and according to the current statistical recording by the beginning of 2003 was 578.1 thousand people.
Since 1992 natural losses began.
In 1994-1999 reduction of population restrained inflow of immigrants from northern districts of the area and neighboring countries. Since 2001 migration inflow was replaced by outflow, the city gradually lost the population.
Since 2007 natural increase in population, and since 2008, positive balance of migration is noted. For January 1, 2019, reduction of population by 390 people is registered. The population in 2011 increased due to natural increase by 22%, and due to migration inflow for 78%.
In 2012 in Irkutsk there arrived people, left minus persons.
The number been born more than for 28% exceeded number of the dead. The high share of youth at the expense of students remains. On a census of 2010 91, 8% of Russians of the total number of citizens. On a census of 2002 there were 87% of Russians, 2.3% of Buryats, 1.1% of Ukrainians, 0.8% of Tatars lived in Irkutsk. For the inter-census period 2002-2010 the number of Germans, Ukrainians and Belarusians was reduced. At the same time the number of Kyrgyz, Uzbeks and Tajiks several times increased. The Irkutsk agglomeration on the basis of Irkutsk and the nearby cities, Angarsk and Shelikov, developed throughout the second half of the 20th century. 3 cities are removed from each other on distance no more than 50 km, concentrate 40% of the population of the area, about 12% of residents of Angarsk and 22% of inhabitants of Shelikov regularly go to Irkutsk for work and study.
The maximum population of the agglomerative territory reached 988,000 people in 1999, then it began to be reduced slowly.
Migration outflow from agglomeration is directed to Moscow and St. Petersburg and also to the big cities of Siberia and the Urals. The next Transbaikalia remains a source of replenishment of the population of agglomeration. The project for development of agglomeration approved in 2007 assumed construction of the new international airport, highways, start of high-speed railway transport between the cities of agglomeration. Several options of consolidation of municipalities, including with preserving of local government in satellite towns, were offered.
Federal investments had to make 31.2 billion rubles, private and 7 times more.
By 2010 the project of Big Irkutsk, due to the lack of financing, was actually stopped.
Economy. In Irkutsk, managements of East Siberian Railway, Irkutsk Energo, Vostsibigel, Irkutsk Oil Company are located.
Main office of the Baikal Bank of Sberbank of Russia. The Irkutsk Research Center renders maintenance at production and processing of metal ores and diamonds. The budget for 2013 and planning period of 2014 and 2015 was accepted in December 2012. The budgetary parameters of 2013 in initial option are: income minus 12.2 billion rubles, expenses minus 12.8 billion rubles, deficiency minus 0.5 billion rubles. Parameters of 2014: income minus 12.5 billion rubles, expenses minus 12.9 billion rubles. Parameters of 2015: income minus 13.1 billion rubles, expenses minus 13.4 billion rubles. Budget revenues in initial option were planned for 2012 of 11.09 billion rubles, including 2.8 billion transfers from the regional budget. Expenses minus 11.79 billion.
In general, the city budget revenues for 2019 made minus 16,314,000,000 rubles, account minus 16,803,000,000 rup.
Industry. Irkutsk Energo, the energy company, largest in Russia.
Unites 3 hydroelectric power stations of the Irkutsk and Irkutsk cascade, the 3
Irkutsk thermal power plants and also coal mines and heating systems of area. Rusal enters into group. The Irkutsk hydroelectric power station develops 4.1 billion kWh a year, about 150 people are employed at it.
The Vostsibidal company is the largest producer and the supplier of stone and brown coal in the area from 6 coal mines. Enters into the Irkutsk Energo company.
The leading industrial enterprise, the Irkutsk Aircraft Factory, which gave the name to present Russian Aircraft Manufacturing Corporation, Irkut. The plant makes planes of military and civil aviation, in particular, exports Su-30 warplanes and educational and fighting Yak-130.
Makes components for the Airbus A planes and develops production of the Russian MiG-21 medium-range aircraft.
About 12,000 people are employed at the enterprise. The Irkutsk plant of heavy mechanical engineering manufactures the gold mining and processing and metallurgical equipment. In the state, about 700 people. The Irkutsk relay plant, the enterprise of defense industry complex, manufactures the switching equipment. The large companies, the Irkutsk plant of precast concrete and the Irkutsk ceramic plant, work in production of construction materials. The Irkutsk plant of road cars produces the equipment for repair of paving, snow cleaning. The food industry is provided by the Irkutsk Masloskombinat, the Irkutsk Meat Company, and the Irkutsk Milk Plant, the Irkutsk Bakery, Angara Confectionery, and also Baikal Heineken Brewery, branch of the Heineken Company. Trade. In 2011, 994 shops, 13 retail markets, 65 shopping centers, 302 booths and 622 trade pavilions worked. Retail turnover was 102.3 billion rubles. Level of consumer prices in Irkutsk is 3% higher than in general across Russia and above than in Krasnoyarsk and Novosibirsk. Supermarket chains. The Centaur, owning 30 Spar and Caesar, Beacon Supermarkets, -69 Slaughter Supermarkets and 49 supermarkets, Hlebsol, Sibirskaya Kompania, -10 Bagheera Supermarkets, hypermarkets. Metro, tape, OK. 877 catering establishments, including 55 restaurants work. Networks of fast service under the international brands Subway, Papa John's, KFC, Brasterfad, and others are open. Communication. The largest operators of the wire internet. Minsk, Rostelecom, Business Network, Irkutsk, Megapolis Telecom, Arknet Telecom, Citelcom, Baikal Telecom, Orient Telecom, Svyaz Transit, and The House. In 2011, in populous places of the city, free Wi-Fi began to appear. Services of fixed telephone communication are rendered by more than 20 operators, including Rostelecom, Citelcom, Payphone, and others. The number of phone numbers of a fixed communication is 221,000, including room phones -173,000. Mobile communication is provided by mobile operators, Megafon, Mint, Beeline, Tele, Tinkoff Mobile. Tourism. Entrance tourism in Irkutsk has mainly transit character on the way to Baikal. Foreign tourists are late in the city on average for 1.52 days, most of them travelers from China, Germany and Japan. 70% of tourist flow fall on a summer season, a peak load, for the period of holding the Baikal Economic Forum in September. In the 1980th years the city was annually visited by over 40,000 foreigners. The number of rooms of hotels and similar means of placement in 2011 made 3.9 thousand places. 72 tour operators act. 23.4 thousand people are engaged in the sphere of tourism. From hotels of the international level, the 4-star hotel of Marriott Network and also 3-star hotel Ibis is open. Average annual loading of hotels does not exceed 40%. Annually there takes place the Tourist Baikal Tour exhibition. Sanatorium treatment Angara, Sanatoria Irkut, pulmonary and tubercular, Sinushin Gore, and children's, Snowdrop, render the resort. In the neighborhood of the city the Architectural and Ethnographic Museum of Tulsa is located. Transport. Through the left coast of Angara on the city there passes 4-band Federal on Novosibirsk, Shita Highway, Baikal MM. The right coast is left by regional routes P on the settlement of Ostordinsky, on the Alexandrovsky path, to Ostuda, on the Baikal path, on Listyanka. To the west in the direction of Shelikov there takes place the round of Irkutsk. Till 2020 creation of belt roads is planned inside and outside the city. Transport passages pass through Angara on a dam of hydroelectric power station and 3 bridges, 2 Glaskovsky in the center constructed on the project of the Moscow architect 1. Francouz and also Inokentievsky an academic. Железнodorozhny Bridge passes Irkut through the river. Several underground crosswalks and 2 elevated work. In 2008 66% of the park of all cars fell to the share of foreign cars. For 2012 in the city 208,000 cars are registered. In 2011 on city roads 78 people died. River transport on both parties of a dam of hydroelectric power station on Angara which does not have locks is provided by 2 river stations. The rocket station dams for excursion tours towards Baikal are higher and the river station in the downtown for the message across Angara dams are lower. From June to September passenger motor ships to Bratsk and Big Cats regularly ply. From Riverport in Mirotvostokno-Sibirskim suburb the river shipping company performs passenger traffic on the basin of Baikal and also cargo transportation of the Cheremkovo coal, the wood and construction materials to Makaryev. City. Irkutsk tram. Tmeet -5 car. Irkutsk trolleybus. Trolza -5265 Megalopolis. Public transport of the city is provided by the municipal enterprises, Irkutsk and tram and trolleybus Irkutsk 235 private carriers. The park of municipal buses has 182 buses, including 101 high-capacity buses and 81 average capacity. In addition to bus station there is a bus station in the remote residential district New Lenino. 98 city bus, 11 trolleybus and 7 tram routes work. In 2009 to bus lines there were 1,400 private buses and minibuses. which transported 49% of the total amount of passengers, public transport minus 51% of passengers. The tram appeared in 1947. 7 routes with a total length of 66 km cover mainly right coast of Angara, including the center, connecting it to the left coast, the line to the station and the campus. 37 trams on lines daily transport more than 70,000 passengers. The trolleybus appeared in 1970. 11 routes connect with the center remote areas, except the Lenin district. Daily to the line there are 55 trolleybuses. Since June 2016 in the test mode, the trolleybus on autonomous to the course is let into the suburb of Irkutsk, the settlement youth, the Irkutsk district. Services of the regular taxi are rendered by more than 100 taxi companies. The aware of the rolling stock of public passenger transport in 2011 was: on trolleybuses minus 12%, 2 buses minus 42%, 2 trams minus 86%. Long distance. China, Irkutsk.
Irkutsk, the railway junction of the Trans-Siberian Railway, the location of management of East Siberian Railway.
In the city there are 2 stations, at stations Irkutsk Passenger and Irkutsk Sorting, on which all passenger trains stop. Cargo trains make a detour of the main part of the city on a detour Irkutsk Sorting, Koncharovo. In city boundaries Kai stations, the military camp, battery and 8 stopping points are also located. The station Irkutsk Passenger, an architecture monument, was reconstructed in 1907. There is a project of reconstruction. In day the station misses about 8,000 passengers of local electric trains and long-distance trains. From the station the tourist trains, Circumbaikal Express and Baikal Cruise. Till 2012. Ko2A travel on Kbobas from the Koltuk station to the terminal station Baikal Port. The suburban message is performed in 2 directions. Angarsk on the northwest till Winter and to Shelikovsky on the southwest to Sludyanka. Electric trains are used also as intracity transport. In the remote prospect till 2030 creation of the high-speed movement between Irkutsk and Krasnoyarsk is planned. The Irkutsk airport works since 1933. The status of international since 1954. Is located within the city in 5 km from the center. From it regular and charter flights to many cities of Russia, the country of Europe and Asia, and also regional flights to northern districts of the area are performed. The passenger traffic in 2011 made 1.26 million people. At the airport local airlines are based. Urara performs flights across Russia, and Angara makes flights on area and to nearby regions. In Leninsky district in the territory of aircraft factory the test airfield Irkutsk-2 works.
Construction of the airport Irkutsk New in 24 km to the northeast from the city is postponed indefinitely due to the lack of federal financing and disagreements in respect of the choice of the land plot. From 1952 for 2006 in the city and near it there were over 20 plane crashes for what Irkutsk purchased glory of, the city of the falling planes.
An unload accident of the cargo aircraft in -124 which fell to apartment houses in 1997 and the passenger A-310 plane which punched a concrete protection during landing time in 2006. The municipal order on the current maintenance of roads is executed by the municipal enterprise, Irkutsk Avtodor. In a year about 2.1 mol NEM are formed. Solid waste. The solid waste landfill has the area of 47 hectares, is located on the 5th km of the Alexandrovsky Path. Export of household waste is performed by the Spetsavto Kozahotso Municipal Unitary Enterprise Companies, the companies, Hyatt and Company, Net City and others. The gas distributing system in the territory of the city is absent. Across the right bank periphery of the city passes Karasinopravod-Angarsk, the Irkutsk airport. Construction of the Chaikinskoye gas pipeline, the gas condensate field, Sciensk, Irkutsk is planned for 2014.
In the market of services and management of apartment houses, managing companies occupy 79%, condominium -18%.
An important economic role in activity of Irkutsk is played by Angara, which feeds the city with water, warm, the electric power, and at the same time is the receiver of sewage.
Power supply sources: the Irkutsk hydroelectric power station and the new and Irkutsk combined heat and power plant.
Supply of electricity to consumers is made from 4 substations: 220 kV, 23 Ps -110 of kV and 12 Ps -35. The prime vendor of the electric power, the Irkutsk Power Supply Company. Networks are serviced by the Southern Electrical Networks Company. Tariffs for the population remain rather low. 82 kopecks for kWh in the second half year 2014. Heat supply sources. New and Irkutsk combined heat and power plant, more than 100 boiler houses, about 40 electroboiler houses. In total in operation -475 km of thermal networks. And heat about 88% of solid fuel and about 13% of fuel oil at a share of power production. For the beginning of 2010 of 30% of thermal networks were in a shabby state. Life of most networks exceeded age of 25-30 years. In Laninsky district, 3 systems of the centralized heat supply, boiler houses of the areas of New Lenino, Irkutskaya and Zheltina work. Other districts receive heat from the Irkutsk combined heat and power plant. Suburbs working in Radishchevo are warmed with quarter boiler houses. The heating season begins on September 15 and 240 days last. Irkutsk Hydroelectric Power Station. The centralized water supply exists since 1904. Production management of water and sewer economy. Municipal Unitary Enterprise provides the population and the enterprises with drinking water, performs water disposal and sewage treatment. The main source of water supply is surface water from the Irkutsk reservoir within the city, the water intake from which is carried out by 2 knots, roughs and construction No. 1. The main water intake, Yershov, is open in 1971, is located near the Yershov Gulf in 2 km from a dam of hydroelectric power station, power -210,000 m. /day operator, Puvivek Municipal Unitary Enterprise. The water intake disinfects water chlorine and gives it to networks of Irkutsk and Shelikov. 270,000 m/day, construction No. 1 is established in a body of a dam of the Irkutsk hydroelectric power station. It supplies with water the new and Irkutsk combined heat and power plant. The water intake of the Ushakovsky field of underground waters with power up to 5,000 m works in the residential district Green. /day. Extent of water supply systems -728 km, which 50% in 2010 were completely worn up. 46% of total amount implemented are the share of the population, 34% the enterprises of power, 12% of industrial enterprises, 8% the organizations of household appointment. The Baikal drinking water is characterized by low rigidity and a low mineralization. Practically lack of iron, zinc and copper. The centralized water disposal in the city appeared in 1955. The system of the sewerage is subdivided into left bank 288,000 m/days and right bank pools 223.5 thousand m/days.
Extent of sewer networks -714.8 thousand meters, from which 47% at the beginning of 2010 were completely worn up.
Treatment facilities except 472,000 m/days. At design capacity -150,000 m/days. The system of the stormwater drainage system is decentralized, developed generally in the central part of the city and in the October district, accepts 73% of the total amount of a drain. Extent of collectors in 2010 made 62 km, 30% of collectors were in critical condition. There were 56 organized releases, including 39 on the bank of Angara.
As of the end of 2011, a quarter of all sewer drains of the city was dumped to Angara without cleaning.
Education. In Irkutsk, 112 preschool institutions work. 77 educational institutions in which over 59,000 school students study. Medical, art, theatrical schools treat average special educational institutions. Agrarian, hydrometeorological, aviation, prospecting technical schools of architecture and construction, cinema and television, economy and right, technical school of the Olympic Reserve. Power, machine building colleges, colleges of culture, physical culture, pedagogical education, economy and tourism. Six universities, institutes and also numerous branches of various higher education institutions work in the city. In them hundreds of doctors and more than 2,000 candidates of science work. Training of students in 260 specialties is conducted. The total number of students in 2011 reached 120,000 people. The Siberian Academy of the Right, Economy and Management, the East Siberian Institute of the Ministry of Internal Affairs of the Russian Federation, the Baikal Humanitarian Institute, the East Siberian Institute of Economy and the Right, the Irkutsk Institute of the International Tourism Work. Branches of the Moscow State Technical University of Civil Aviation, Academy of the Prosecutor General's Office of the Russian Federation, the Russian State Trade and Economic University, the Siberian University of Consumer Cooperation, Modern Humanitarian Academy, Academy of Work and the Social Relations, the Russian State University of Justice. The Russian Presidential Academy of National Economy and Public Administration are open. The Irkutsk branch, the Russian Legal Academy of the Ministry of Justice of the Russian Federation, Regional Financial and Economic Institute, the Russian State University of Physical Culture, Sport, Youth and Tourism. Universities. The Irkutsk State University is founded in 1918. Includes 4 educational institutes and 9 faculties, the International Business School with 2 faculties, 2 branches.
Scientific activity of higher education institution is provided by 3 research institutes and also astronomical observatory and the botanical garden.
At the university 5 museums are open. At the university over 800 teachers work, 18,000 students study. The Irkutsk National Research Technical University is founded in 1930, awarded the status of the university in 1993. Consists of 6 educational institutes, 8 faculties and 1 branch. In educational institution over 3,000 employees work, more than 30,000 students study. The Irkutsk State Medical University is founded in 1930. Consists of 8 faculties. At the university 350 candidates and 100 doctors of science work, over 4,000 students study. The Baikal State University is founded in 1930. Consists of 1 educational institute and 12 faculties and also has 4 branches. The Irkutsk State Transport University is founded in 1932 as the East Siberian Institute of Engineers of Transport. Since 1934 branch of the Novosibirsk Institute of Engineers of Railway Transport. Since 1975 Ariat, since 2002 Irkutsk. Includes 1 institute and 5 faculties, 11 branches in Eastern Siberia and Ulaanbaatar. The Irkutsk State Agricultural University of A. Isevsky is founded in 1934 as the Irkutsk Agricultural Institute. Consists of 4 institutes, 4 faculties and has branch in Shita. At the beginning of January 2009 the Irkutsk highest military aviation engineering college was liquidated.
In 2013 the Ministry of Education and Science of the Russian Federation issued the Order on Reorganization of the East Siberian State Academy of Education.
The Irkutsk Teacher Training College. By accession to the Irkutsk State University. In May 2016 the branch of the Moscow State Linguistic University, the Eurasian Linguistic Institute founded in 1948 was liquidated. Consisted of 2 educational institutes and 6 faculties. In March 2017 Rosoboronadze forbade enrollment of students in the Irkutsk State Agricultural University of A. Isevsky. Enrollment in the Irkutsk State Agricultural University of A. Isevsky is resumed by the order of Rosoboronadze No. 807/07 of April 13, 2017. Science. The foundation of scientific activity was laid by foundation in 1851 of the Siberian Department of the Russian Geographical Society. In 1949 the East Siberian branch of Academy of Sciences of the USSR is formed.
The Academic Science of Irkutsk represents 9 research institutes of the Irkutsk Scientific Center Siberian branch of the Russian Academy of Science and 3 divisions of the East Siberian Scientific Center from the Russian Academies of Medical Science forming the uniform campus in the Sverdlovsk district of the city.
The Irkutsk Scientific Center Siberian branch of the Russian Academy of Science is the 2nd largest in Siberia, in it over 1,000 research associates, including the 229 doctors and 654 candidates of science work. Includes 9 institutes. Geography, Chemistry, Geochemistry, Solar and Terrestrial Physics, Energy Systems, Crust, Physiology and Biochemistry of Plants, Dynamics of Systems and Management Theory, Limnological Institute.
And also branch of Institute of Laser Physics of the Siberian branch of the Russian Academy of Science and the Baikal Museum in Listvyanka.
Organization actively cooperates with IGU and IRNITU. The whole group of institutes of scientific center researches in the field of sciences about Earth, including on problems of the Baikal Rift area and reservoirs on Angara.
Institutes of the center have dozens of stations and installations in East Sayan Mountains and other points of Siberia.
Institute of Crust, the leading scientific institution of Russia on a research of a continental riftogenas. The East Siberian Scientific Center unites 3 scientific centers with the Russian Academy of Medical Science. Ecology of the person, problems of health of family and reproduction of the person, reconstructive and recovery surgery.
The Irkutsk Research Prodivokamy Institute of Siberia and the Far East specializes in epidemic well-being on especially dangerous bacterial and viral infections in the territory of Siberia and the Far East. The Baikal Research Center carries out scientific and educational activity in the sphere of ecology of Baikal and Baikal region.
Media. Except numerous federal radio stations in the city broadcasts Radio Energy, which broadcasts Avtos Media Holding, and also, at a frequency of 102.1 FM, the only local radio station broadcasts. The television in Irkutsk broadcasts since December 31, 1957.
Transfer of TV and broadcasting signals is provided with Irkutsk branch, the Irkutsk Corps Expert Baikal TV Media Holding in Irnitu.
Channel. Broadcasting of TV channels and radio stations is performed in analog and in a digital format.
The city television tower located near the historic center represents a metal mast 192 meters high, which waves extend to Usili Siberian.
In on-air broadcasting Channel 1, Russia-1/Irkutsk, Match TV NTV, Channel 5, Russia 2, Russia-24/Irkutsk, Roundabout, Otto, TV Center, Ren TV, Savio, Saints House are available, 2, TV-3, Friday. Star, World, Scene T, Must TV. In analog broadcasting, Disney Channel Che are available Saturday. The local television is provided by TV companies with the state participation, State TV and Radio Broadcasting Company Irkutsk, Stork, TV-23, and Independent, TVC, ents Expert Baikal TV. Also broadcasts cable and digital television of it. Press. Social and political editions are provided to the oldest of nowadays issued newspapers of Irkutsk, the East Siberian Truth, Official Irkutsk, and the regional, oppositional newspaper, Baikalskaya Vesti. Among business publications, the Capitalist magazine, newspapers, business, and competitor. There are the local history magazine, Irkutsk Earth, Literary Siberia, the children's literary and art magazine, Siberyachik, the almanac, Irkutsk Kremlin. Among popular newspapers: Irkutsk Reporter, Stets, Number 1, Kopek, Friday, Moneybox, District Truth, East Format, Irkutsk Trade Newspaper, My Years, Irkutsk German newspaper. From narrowly targeted editions, the Sibersky energetic newspapers, Sports, Our Sibskana, the City of Akar, the magazines, Kredostroitel Irkutsk, Viz Avtomobilny Irkutsk. Regional supplements of Rossiyskaya Gazeta, Izvestia, Kommersant, and other federal editions are released. Legal acts of local government authorities are published in the Official Irkutsk newspaper. Among news agencies, RIA Siberian News, RCT, Baikal Info, RIA Arctic Media, the Siberian News Agency. Also there is an electronic edition of News Contents Gazeta Irkutsk. Why? From the largest publishing groups, East Siberian Truth and Number 1. In 2004 in Irkutsk there was a murder of the street. Petersburg journalist January Travinsky.
In 2010 on degree of availability to the population of the independent press, Irkutsk took the 25th place among the largest cities of the country.
The city authorities conduct active interaction with Massachusetts media. In 2010 for the budget account 1979 publications were placed, 42.4 million rubles are spent. For 2011 in Irkutsk there were 60 healthcare institutions, including 30 municipal. The quantity of beds in hospitals was 6,000. 8 hospital and polyclinic complexes, 13 independent polyclinics, 4 independent hospitals, the city perinatal center worked. The regional clinical hospital consists of 13 surgical and 8 therapeutic offices, totals over 500 doctors. The regional hematologic and perinatal centers are a part of organization. Among specialized agencies of regional level: Clinical Consulting and Diagnostic Center, Center of Medicine of Accidents, Inner Regional Burn Center, Geriatric Center, Free Psychiatric Hospitals, Oncological Clinic and others. The population illness rate is rather stable in recent years. The diseases of respiratory organs caused mainly by sharp respiratory infections, diseases of urinary tract of infectious character and bone and muscular diseases belong to the most widespread. Decrease in incidence of IBS, by strokes and growth of incidence of diabetes of the 2 type which suffers from 2% of the population is noted. Diseases of a cardiovascular system and also oncological and bone and muscular diseases are the main reason of an invalidization of able-bodied population. The leading causes of death in 2014 were cardiovascular diseases -47% of all cases, cancer -17%, injuries -12%, pulmonary diseases -6%, infections -6%, digestive tract diseases -6%. A third of the dead were in working age. Sport. In Irkutsk 384 sports constructions, from them 200 municipal function. Among them 23 pools, 14 skiing lodges, sports palace, 154 sites, 165 gyms, a track and field athletics arena, a hippodrome, 7 stadiums, Trud, Dynamo, Zenit, Pilot, Record, Lokomotiv -2, the Irnitu sports complex and the main football arena, Lokomotiv on 3,000 places. Among team sports in Irkutsk the bandy enjoys the greatest popularity. The Baikal Energy team plays in a Super League of the Championship of Russia. The women's team on bandy, Record, makes frame of Russian national team on the sport. The team repeatedly became the champion of Russia, is a prize winner of a Command World Cup on bandy among women. The Irkutsk Basketball Club acts in the Super League -1A division, the women's Loka Angara volleyball team, in the highest League A of the Championship of Russia. The men's team Yermak from the city of Angarsk acts in the Supreme Hockey League. The football club, Baikal, was founded in 2009, accepted in the second division of the Zone East in 2010. The club replaced the star team playing in 1957-2008. Regularly there takes place the tournament on sports ballroom dances, Blue Baikal. In February 2012 in Irkutsk the World Ice Hockey Championship with a ball among women was held.
In 2014, the World Ice Hockey Championship with 8-ball among men is held. In February 2017 in Irkutsk there took place the World Ice Hockey Championship with 8-ball among girls not younger 17 years. Culture. In Irkutsk 107 cultural institutions and arts, from which 52 municipal work. Among them Philharmonic Hall, including concert and organ halls, symphonic orchestra, 4 state theaters, 4 state museums, regional film fund, 6 municipal schools of arts, 4 art schools, 4 music schools. The centralized library system contains 32 libraries. Local offices of the Union of Artists of Russia, the Union of Composers of Russia, the Union of Theatrical Figures of Russia, the Irkutsk Photographic Society, the East Siberian Office of the Union of Cinematographers of Russia work. The center of literary life is the House of Writers. Among movie theaters: New Cinema, Art, Cinema House, Berg-Usen, Don Otello, Seagull, Star, Kinojum, Kinopark Caramel, Kinokartel. The oldest of libraries, Library of Museum of Local Law, contains 90,000 copies. The oldest books are dated the 18th century. The Zone Scientific Library of the Irkutsk State University was formed in 1918. The main building is located in the White House. The fund of library contains about 3 million editions, including rare books and manuscripts. The Regional State Universal Scientific Library of I. 1. Molchanov-Sibirsky has fund over 1 million books. The centralized library system includes 17 adults and 10 children's libraries, with the general fund about 700,000 books. Regularly there pass the historical and cultural festival, Decemberist evenings. Since 1985. All Russian A Festival Days of the Russian Spirituality and Culture, Shine of Russia. Since 1994. A Festival of Modern Dramatic Art of A. Bampalav. Since 1997. A Festival of the Academic Music, Stars on Baikal. Since 2004. The International Musical Festival, Jazz on Baikal. Since 2006. The Baikal International Festival Documentary and Educational Films, Person and Nature, the International Festival of Forgecraft Hephaestus, a festival of autotuning of Baikal Motorshu, a carnival, Walk Together. The circus, private zuglery, Nerpinary, the children's railroad operate on the Horse Island. Irkutsk Regional Museum of Local Law is formed in 1782 as the East Siberian Department of the Russian Geographical Society. The old building of the museum burned down in the fire of 1879 together with library and exhibits. Now is located in the building built on the project of the architect Mr. Rosen in 1883-1891 in Mauritian style. In the museum scientists 5. Obruchev N. Pervelsky D. Clements worked. The archaeological collection contains over 300,000 exhibits. Irkutsk State Art Museum of 5. D. Sukachov. Originates from a private collection of the Irkutsk Mayor 5. Sukachov, which he purchased in St. Petersburg and bequeathed to Irkutsk in 1920. The first pictures belonged to Brushes 1. Rapin 1.
Ivazovsky, P. Vereshchagina and other famous artists. In 1928 the meeting was replenished with 1. Shishkin A. Kyunshi 5. Kolonev N. Rurik 5. Serov 5. Borovikovsky F. Rokotov's works. Collections of porcelain and Fabergé jewelry, ancient Russian art silver E.
Lancer's sculpture, porcelain iconostases of the end of the 19th century are stored in the museum. Since 1995 the name of the founder is appropriated to the museum.
The Museum of History of the City of Irkutsk is formed in 1996. At the museum the Club of Honorable Citizens, Club of Victims of Political Repressions works. In the downtown the branch of the museum, the exhibition center of 5. Rogel is open. The Irkutsk Regional Historical and Memorial Museum of Decembrists located in Trubetskoye and Volkonsky's houses. The museum represents 2 memorial estates located on the neighboring streets. Trubetskoye House Museum. Dzerzhinsky Street. 64. And Volkonsky House Museum. Volkonsky Lane. In the historic center of the city. Among the other museums, the Angara Icebreaker, She.
Shelihov's Museum, 5.
Sukachev's Estate, the Museum of Communication of Siberia, the Museum of Passenger Carriage Depot of Irkutsk, the Museum of Entertaining Science Experimentary, the Museum of the Victory, Museum of Military Glory at Officers Club, the Museum of Mineralogy Irnitu, the Museum of the History Irnitu, the Museum Municipal Department of Internal Affairs, the Museum of History of the Irkutsk Prison Castle of A. 5.
Kolchak located in CISO-1. In March 2017 in the downtown the Museum of Valentin Rasputin, which basis of exposure is made by the memorial collection donated the museum by the son of the writer opened.
In 2018 the unique Museum of Officinal Herbs and Minerals opened. Irkutsk Academic Drama Theatre of N.P. Oklopkov. The first troupe in Irkutsk appeared in 1851. The present building of theatre is built in 1897 on the project of the street.
Petersburg architect W.
Schroeder. The performance, Auditor, became the first statement in the new building. At theatre the museum is created. In 1921 on the main square there took place statement, Fight of Work in the Capital, under the leadership of N. Oklopkov, in honor of whom in 1967 the theatre was called. In the Irkutsk theatre the film director 50. Daidai 50. Braniva's actors M. Svetin G. Strizanav P. Shalakanov worked. The Irkutsk Regional Theatre for Young Audience of A. Vampilev is created in 1928 as Theatre of Young Workers, since 1937 becomes Theatre for Young Audience. In theatre the playwright P. Nalyarevsky worked. Since 1987 bears a name of A. Vampilev. The Irkutsk Regional Puppet Theatre of Estionik is formed in 1935 based on theatre of young workers under the initial name, the East Siberian State Puppet Theatre and Puppets. The first performance, Hedgehog, Petrushka and Two Monkeys.
In 1988 the Irkutsk Regional Puppet Theatre of Estionik received the name.
The repertoire includes performances both for children and for adults. The Irkutsk Regional Musical Theatre of N.M. Zagorski is opened in 1941 as the Irkutsk Theatre of the Musical Comedy.
In 1956 there was a musical comedy, Siberian Fires, devoted to construction of the Irkutsk hydroelectric power station.
In 1989 the theatre received the status of musical theatre. Theatre Jesus Christ the Superstar stages operas, operettas, ballets, musicals, joint statement of a rock opera. The Irkutsk Theatre of the Folk Drama is created in 1977 as National Theatre Studio. In 1987 it is awarded the status professional. The theatre turned into the temple of the Russian national culture. There take place the performances, Conquest of Siberia, Yakov Polkabov, Tale of Igor's Campaign, Pigeon Book, Russian Ballerinas. With participation of actors of theatre on streets of Irkutsk, national ceremonies, Maslenitsa, Christmas carols, are carried up. The Theatre of Pilgrims conducts the history with the rock group Pilgrim, created in 1983. Since 1991 has the status of public institution of culture. Among amateur theatres, the Dialogue, founded in 1982. Bravo, formed in 2008. The City in Art. In Irkutsk there is an action of the novels. Verna Mikhail Strogov, where the city is compared to the huge storeroom of different goods in which China, all Central Asia and Europe trades. The first poem on Irkutsk, Blagodenstveno We Live, it was written by A. Orlev in the first half of the 19th century. Memories of Irkutsk were left by the famous writer Z. A. Evtiva Polevaya N.A. Poleva, the publisher of the magazine of the Moscow Telegraph ANSES. A. Poleva 1. Kalashnikov N. Shukin. Historical stories were devoted to Irkutsk by the writer D. Sergeyev. The city is mentioned in pre-revolutionary songs by convicts. From Irkutsk I am turned back, why I met you. The beloved Irkutsk, the middle of the earth song written by the Moscow composer E. Tumanyan on verses by the Irkutsk poet M. Sergeyev is considered the official anthem of the city. Float and float Baikal bread. The Science mountains become blue in the distance. We will be met by the capital of Taiga, Siberia. Beloved Irkutsk, middle of earth. In Irkutsk there took place shootings of feature films, Dreams About Russia, based on the novel of the same name Yasushi Inoue, February Wind, of the director 5. Dostal, at the Lake Cut. S. Gerasimov. 1969. A Star of Captivating Happiness, Cut. 5. Motul. 1975. Solar Wind R. Goryava, Admiral A. Pervchuka E. Grishkovets's Satisfaction, National Comedy, Pokobovsk. The reverse side of Siberia, a bowl of birds, occurs action of picture, the long road in dunes, a here. Xingling.
From documentary pictures, pre-revolutionary movies of Donatello movie theater and the Soviet tapes of the East Siberian studio of a newsreel. In the 1738 years the city was imprinted in the drawing of the German artist 1.
Licinius is later on a Rudakov and Cuvelier's engravings. Watercolors, the road in Irkutsk, a confidential closed sleigh in Irkutsk, a wedding ceremony in the Irkutsk Cathedral, are executed in 1802 by E. Koronov. Watercolors, a view of Irkutsk and the Bystrashy Angara River, a view of Irkutsk. Panorama. A view of Irkutsk. With figures ashore. A view of Irkutsk. With 2 sailing vessels. A view of Irkutsk. With herd at a fence. Are created in 1805 by the academician A. Martinov. The city is represented on a background of the portrait of the poet Mr. Therzhavin executed in 1801. The picture Townscape of Irkutsk was painted in 1867 by E. Meyer by request of Alexander II. The artist N. Dobrovolsky devoted to the city of the end of the 19th century of the picture crossing through Angara embankment in Irkutsk. Architecture. Irkutsk in many respects managed to keep the historical appearance and initial planning. Its historic center developed on the place of a wooden jail which remaining balance was sorted in 1790. Church of the Xavier, the only survived construction of a jail, together with Epiphany Cathedral forms the most ancient architectural complex of Irkutsk. Other prominent ensemble of the city is located at Angara Embankment at the beginning of Karl Marx Street.
It is formed by a monument to the founder of the Trans-Siberian Railway, to Alexander III, the Museum of Local Lore with round angular towers executed in Mauritian style, and the Sibiryakovsky Palace, better known as the White House, serving as the residence of governor-generals in 1838-1917.
The historical and architectural zone, Decembrists in Irkutsk, is formed by Church of the Transfiguration, Syropithitelny House C.
Nedvednikova, houses of Decembrist Trubetskoy and Volkonsky M.
Speransky's house and others. Also reserved area, Zhelyabovsky complex, includes quarters of wooden building. On the main city streets, Karl Marx and Lenin, who are crossed with each other, monuments of stone architecture of the end of the beginning of the 20th centuries are concentrated. The main pedestrian street, Yaritsky. In the 18th century of the street of Irkutsk there were braids and a curve. In the 1768 years the first Irkutsk governor K. 50. Frauendorf takes measures to improvement of the city. The first regular development plan for the city was developed by the unknown author in 1791 and approved as Catherine II on August 4, 1792. Implementation of the plan began only in the 1810th years. By this time introduction of prior approval of all projects of constructions with the architect of the city belongs. From Morskoy Street, from the place of a jail, the way to Baikal opened. Perspektivnia Street formed on the place of a city strengthening wall came to the Yakut Highway. Moskovskaya Street conducted to a crossing through Angara from where the Siberian path began. The Krugomorsky Road conducted with the left coast of Angara in Transbaikalia. The Russian architecture is provided by the oldest stone building which remained from a jail, the Church of the Savior, constructed in 1713.
Combine elements of Old Russian and Baroque styles. The Znamensk Church with the level bell tower and festively decorated Epiphany Cathedral with the tent bell tower. The brightest sample of the Siberian Baroque is richly decorated Krestovsky Church having a stupubrazny silhouette like a Buddhist pagoda.
Trinity Church with the level bell tower reminds Polsky and Znamensk churches. For the end of 2011 in Irkutsk was 761 monuments of wooden architecture. From them 28 objects were registered under federal protection, 36 regional and 485 municipal. 156 monuments are privatized. The oldest house of Irkutsk, the house Shubinik, constructed in the 18th century. Richly decorated House of Europe, known also as the Lacy House, represents the copy of the House Shastany the 19th century, recreated according to drawings in 1999. In 2011, within public and private partnership, the 130th quarter project with the recreated houses of the 17th, 19th centuries was implemented. From 2004 to 2011, over 300 objects of cultural heritage were brought out of protection of the state and destroyed.
In 1930, the 1948 years appeared the single buildings in style of the Soviet constructivism, later complemented with elements of the classical order. Buildings of the State Bank of the USSR, management of Vod, Siberia Hotel.
The building of the Vostobigel Company is sustained in style of monumental classicism. Monumental art of the Soviet period is provided by the Memorial Complex, Eternal Flame, monuments to 5. Lenin, a monument to fighters of revolution on a Massachusetts grave of Red Army men, a panel from a mosaic, International, and others.
Among monuments of post-perestroika years, the restored monuments to Alexander III and a triumphal arch, the Moscow Gate.
In 1970, Irkutsk was included in the list of historic towns. In 2007, the master plan of the city, which replaced the Soviet plan of 1970, is accepted. For 2010, in the city was 1 avenue and over 1,000 streets with a total length about 700 km. Many streets of the historic center keep the Soviet names given them in 1920. Religion. In Irkutsk, 70 religious organizations work.
The Russian Orthodox Church unites 23 temples and 4 chapels of the Irkutsk Diocese, which is a part of the Irkutsk Metropolitanate.
The main cathedral since 2015, Cathedral of Epiphany. In 1917, 3 monasteries worked in the city.
Voznesensky, Znamensk and Prince Vladimirsky, opened in 1903.
9 chapels, 2 cathedrals, 22 city churches, 22 at educational institutions, prisons and hospitals, 6 at military units.
Parish schools, 2 spiritual schools, theological and church and teachers seminary were open.
There was an Old Belief Church, a Catholic church, Protestant Lutheran church, the Muslim mosque, synagogues. In plans of the mayor's office, restoration of Kazan Cathedral in the historic center of the city. Receipts of Old Belief and Pravoslavny churches are open. In the city, the cathedral of the Catholic Diocese of St. Joseph, the Catholic diocese, the first in the area in the world which unites receipts of eastern Siberia and the far east of Russia, is located. The Old Catholic Church is used as the organ hall of the Irkutsk Philharmonic Hall. Among Protestants: Evangelists, Baptists, Adventists, Lutherans. The Ashkenazi and Sephardic communities of Jews are open. The Cathedral Mosque, A. Liebknecht Street, and the small mosque, Item Zhelkino, subordinated to the Baikal Muftiyat, the religious organization of Muslims, work. International relations: Irkutsk develops the relations with the foreign cities since 1967. In Soviet period, the city was visited by many heads of the foreign states, including Fidel Castro, Josip Broz Tito, Indira Gandhi, Kim Il-sung's son, Nikolai Ceausescu, and many others. Irkutsk was in the twinning relations with Karl-Marx-Stadt, in which one of streets still is called Irkutsk, Irkutsker Strasse. In the city, the representation, the Emma of Russia, is opened. Also in it, consulate generals of Mongolia, China, the Republic of Korea, Poland, Honorable Consulate of the Republic of Lithuania are located. The Japanese Information Center works. In 2016 in Irkutsk, the representative office of Academy of Sciences of Mongolia will be open. Since 2000 in Irkutsk there took place the Baikal International Economic Forum. The partner cities of Irkutsk treat: Eugene in the USA, since 1988, Pforzheim in Germany since 1999, Gangneung in the Republic of Korea since 2009, the capital of Lithuania Vilnius since 2010. Two partner regions: Department of France de Topsavoy, since 2001, the Commune of Sweden Strömsund since 2001, the Province of Italy of Pordenone since 2005, the Karlovy Vary region of the Czech Republic since 2011. Comments. Court, having in addition established the facts of the case, in a descriptive and motivation part of the text of the judgment stated the following. On the night of February 7, 1920 it is shot by Bolsheviks, according to the most widespread version, on the riverbank of Ushakovki. The body of the admiral was lowered in an ice hole. The confidential telegram 5. 1. Ulianova, Lenina, is a result of whom the Revolutionary Military Council of the Fifth Red Army received the corresponding instructions from Moscow, formed the basis for execution. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.